about today is before the prayer. Does everybody remember the Lord's Prayer? Yeah. You know, we probably know it fairly well, but it doesn't just sort of arrive on our page out of nothing. There's a context to it. And so we're going to be reading the context to that Lord's Prayer because I want to address this idea today. It's all about these 2 weeks are all about disciplining us to pray. Like all of us enjoying the idea that we could do something that's difficult that produces the best results ever. Listen. Can I advertise to you anymore that the very best thing you could possibly do with time in your day is pray? Okay? I know you're all super able, you're super smart, you're super talented, you got all kinds of money and connections, and you can make stuff happen. But you will never make as much happen unless you spend time in prayer. And you will never make as much happen through your own efforts as compared to if you had just spent that time in prayer. Prayer is the most important thing that you will ever do because then it's not you, it's not your abilities, it's you appealing to God and His abilities to do something. So can I just say, please pray? In fact, we just wanted everybody to know you should pray first. So we gave you wristbands. Have you got a wristband on today? You got it set? Is it already locked in? Look at this. Angus, arms up like that. We feel like we're doing some sort of rebellious victory dance. Pray first. We want you to wear this on your wrist just as a constant reminder that before you do anything, in your first instinct, the first thing you should try is just pray. I don't make it like a super complicated King James thing. Just pray. God, this is coming up. Please help. Do this. I'm about to talk to so-and-so. I'm about to drive here. I'm about to go there. I'm about to ask this question. I would like this. I've just heard this from the doctor. My friend has just told me this. Whatever happens, pray first. Can you just do that? Pray first. Now, I've just said that. Pray first. And we'll encourage you to pray. But the weird thing about prayer is that we don't do it. Like, that's just so surprising to me personally. I don't know, I'm a pastor. Prayer is kind of a thing for us. I'm a professional prayer. You can tell I visit people's places, and they're like, can you pray for this? And can you pray for, you know, I just know how. I got the groove. I can pull out those prayers out of nowhere. So it's strange to me, and this is what I think. This is what I brought in this series. My wondering is, why don't we pray more? Surely there's something that is more difficult about it than we think, and there's maybe something that's discouraging us so that we don't do it as much as we ought. And I wanted to try to maybe just go through some of the teaching about Jesus when he talked about prayer, about the other conditions, the things that affect us, which is what we talked about last week. Because I don't know, has anybody ever prayed and not got an answer? Did you ever find that discouraging? Yeah? Have you ever done something and it didn't turn out? Do you ever find that discouraging? But it's weird how we still do stuff. Right? Like, you know, we drew something, it doesn't work. We don't go, well, I'm never going to do anything again. I applied for one job, didn't get it. Oh, well. But it's funny, with prayer, we kind of feel like, well, we prayed and it didn't happen, so, well, maybe I shouldn't bother. Now I'm wondering if God ever hears my prayers at all. It's a strange sort of insecurity that we have about prayer. So I wanted to just sort of encourage you with a few great statements about what the great Christian leaders of our time have thought. Here, Martin Luther says, I have so much business that I cannot get on without spending 3 hours daily in prayer. Isn't that an amazing statement? Somebody who is, if you don't know Martin Luther, he's one of the great legends of Christianity who brought about the Protestant Reformation, styles of worships and things we know about Jesus and the Bible that had been lost until he rediscovered them and redistributed them to the Western world. Now, here's a guy that was so busy with things to do for Jesus that he went, whoa, it's so bad. I have to pray an extra 3 hours every day just to be able to do what I need to do. And then another guy here, William Carey, says prayer, that is secret, fervent, believing prayer, lies at the root of all personal godliness. Like William Carey, great missionary to the world and traveled so much, he saw that the effect of prayer was transforming on people's lives. If you spend time with Jesus, this is how you change. It's just as easy to connect as possible. But I love those 3 words in there, secret, fervent, and believing, which is what we're actually talking about today and last week. Richard Foster says, to pray is to change. To pray is to change. In fact, all of those things that we do in life to become better people, better humans, prayer would do more work for your abs than the abdominizer, or prayer, because, then we can work out how much you're eating as well. A prayer would do more work for that addictive problem, for that thinking problem, for that depression problem. Prayer would do more work to change us than anything else, yet it's the thing that we kind of sort of only superficially use. Okay, so we're going to be reading Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 to 9, and I want to be asking this question today. Based on this verse, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And I want to ask the question, what is the reward of prayer? Jesus is the one who said this. It's not like I'm selling falsely. It's not like I'm saying, oh no, you ought to pray and not be concerned about the reward because you're just so super humble. But Jesus himself said there would be a reward to prayer. My question is, what's the reward? Can I ask this question? Is the reward to prayer answered prayer? Is the reward to prayer personal life change? Is the reward to prayer calloused knees? Is the reward to prayer you becoming famous for being a prayer? Is the reward to prayer you becoming an author about great books on prayer that you can make lots of money on? Look, what is the reward for prayer? This is what I just wanted to bring to this scripture to ask us. And so let's start at verse 1 of chapter 6. Let me just start out with a nice strong word. Beware! Okay. Just to get your attention. You imagine, Jesus is speaking this, a one man to a crowd of perhaps, 8 to 10,000 people delivering a sermon. Do you know how loud you have to talk in those environments? So if you're sitting close, it's like when I do weddings and they don't have microphones and stuff, because sometimes it's like outdoors and people are standing all over and there's birds and there's fountains and there's water. And I just have to tell the couple who are standing right in front of me, I'm going to be really loud. So don't get offended, because I'm going to have to shout, and you're going to have to, Anyway, so Jesus is here talking to the crowd of thousands. Beware of practicing your righteousness. Let's calm it down. I got a microphone. Before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Oh, it's good to start out encouraging like that. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they say that they may be praised by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and on the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, because they think that they will be heard because of their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Pray then like this: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. I thought I'd just keep going because we were in such a good momentum there. It's the same prayer as we talked about last week, but this time Jesus is teaching about prayer in a completely different context. In fact, it's the most known context about prayer, and it's Nancy's writing this question. I'm asking this question: what is the reward of prayer? To start out, Jesus says, beware. You know that very oftentimes Jesus would give warnings about the behavior, the thoughts, the practices that we do that somehow confuse us so that we don't end up with the result that we thought. Or we end up in a place that we never intended to be, or we simply knew it was coming and ignored him. So bewaring warnings are fantastically important. For example, this sign. Caution, this sign has sharp edges. Do not touch the edges of this sign. which is kind of ironic because, and also the bridge is out ahead, by the way. Are you guys not in a laughy mood today? You just sort of sober. See if this one helps you. No trespassing. We're tired of hiding the bones. The bodies, sorry. Yeah, they become bones later. Accidents are prohibited along this road. I like that. That's good. Caution. Cow may be hot. That is not something you see enough warnings about. I don't know if that relates to India or something. All right. This one here perhaps struggled for some translation. A nice electric shock. And Jesus is not just throwing up silly signs for us to be aware of, but he is giving us this warning. Beware. And it's very, very interesting that somebody who is well known as the best practitioner of righteousness would give clear warnings about the practices of righteousness. He says this, beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, because then the outcome is you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Everybody who does something expects something from the Father in heaven. Why do we give unless the Father notices? Why do we serve unless the Father notices? Why do we pray unless the Father notices? Why do we do any of these things unless the Father notices? But Jesus says, if you do something that other people see, then you have a great chance of losing whatever outcome you thought that you were going to achieve. If you do a righteous thing in front of other people, there's a chance that it's going to ruin the outcome. Now, doesn't that make my job tough? Am I faking right now? Am I secretly evil? I pray publicly quite a lot. Do I mean it? Do I secretly have other agendas? Am I just faking this super awesome Christian guy that you see before you? You see, the weird thing is that doing all of this kind of service kind of ruins the potential for the service. Like if I do a great job preaching and people come up to me and go, thank you, Joe, for preaching. That was awesome. My life has changed. I now love God so much. Have I received my reward? By the way, you can say that if you need to, but only when I'm feeling discouraged. Otherwise, it'll make me... one guy came to me and he said, after years of preaching, he said, you do such a great job of preaching all the time, but I don't tell you because I don't want your head to get too big. I thought, job done. Feeling discouraged every time you ignore me. Good on you. This whole thing that we do has a potential, but yet, have you ever been in church and you ever thought, I just really like to lift up my hands, but I'm worried about what this person next to me will think. I like to just kind of sing really loudly, or just like to just somehow engage in this really deeply, but I'm worried about what other people will think, and I don't want them to think that I'm a hypocrite because I don't raise my hands all the time. And isn't it kind of weird that by the mere thought of others, we can change our own behavior when it was supposed to be towards God in the first place? And this is what Jesus is talking about. James actually says, you ask and you don't receive because you ask wrongly to spend it on your own passions. And here, let me ask you a question. Is it possible that we can waste our time praying? Is it possible that we can waste our time praying? Because we're not praying with the right motives. We're not praying for the right reasons. We're not praying with the right heart. And so is it possible that you could be terribly discouraged in your prayer life because you hadn't yet figured out what it was all about and what it was for? You fell into the trap that Jesus was warning about. And let's go through it. When Jesus is teaching on prayer, he spoke to heart issues as much to habit issues. Here's a big dilemma for me. I feel God says, I want 2 weeks, let's talk about prayer, let's get everybody praying. So my thought is, okay, I just get up for a couple of weeks and tell everybody you should pray more. Does everybody know that already? Can you just put up your hand if you think you should pray more? All right, message delivered. So you know that. So I get up, rant, rave, tell you about the benefits, the plausibility, the outcome, tell you about how prayer like split oceans and move people. Like I tell you about prayers. It's amazing. But Jesus talked as much about the reason behind the prayer as he talked about the habit of prayer. You should pray more. You should pray every single day. You should pray at least for 10 minutes in the morning just to start your day. Please, just do it. You should pray as you drive along. You should pray as you go through life. You should pray to close your day. You should pray more. Your life would be so much better. Message delivered. Let's talk about this. What's the heart behind what you're doing? What's the heart behind your prayer? What is going on in your heart when you pray? I know for myself, my heart can be a very busy place. And so let's talk about this. Here are unexpected obstacles to prayer. Last week we talked about how we forget to expect. Like we have this impression that God's not going to hear us or he's not going to respond to us. We feel like we're asking a neighbor that doesn't really want to give us stuff, but we have to nag him to death until he finally does. And then Jesus goes on and says, the Father is not like that. He's actually far more generous. He's not going to give you a scorpion when you ask for an egg. That's child abuse. He's not doing it. He's going to respond favorably all the time. But we lose the expectancy. How many people have ever prayed a prayer where you really even doubted you were going to get it as you were praying it? My eyes used to be perfect. I say perfect, but they probably didn't look perfect, but they worked perfectly. And then when I was about 15 years old, they started to go bad. When I was 16, I got into the stage where I started to need a very small prescription for my glasses, but that was also when I became a Christian, so my prayer life began. And I used to pray every day that Jesus would heal my eyes. I don't pray that prayer anymore. You know, in fact, I've caught myself praying things before where I didn't really mean them, and I thought, what is really going on here in my heart? Well, I'm asking this thing of God that I don't even think he'll do. So our expectations need to grow. And then second, we have a problem. We have a problem with genuineness. Jesus said this, when you pray, don't heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, because they think that they'll be heard for their many words. Don't be like them, because your Father already knows before you ask him. Have you ever done the repetitive prayer, or you've heard people kind of doing that? And then maybe if they're Pentecostal, they throw in tongues, just sort of to pad the thing out. We pray for some stuff, don't know what to say, let's just speak in tongues. See, we kind of, repetitiveness. When we were just on a recent trip, I got so annoyed by repetitiveness because what did we have, like 12 flights? 12 different flights. So we got on and off airplanes 12 different times. It's kind of exhausting, and you get really, really sick of it. I used to love the idea of getting on a plane. Now I despise the idea of getting on a plane and being cramped, sitting in there. Whoa, pretzels, thank you. Okay, but when we were there, we had the people at the gate. You know, this actually isn't a picture of the gate, but I just remember feeling how sad it was that there was a lady at the gate. She worked for an airline that I would love to name but won't. And she was, you know how they call like the different people to get on at different times and give you different instructions about your carry-ons? This is what it sounded like. I was just like, what? So I'm like, nobody even understands. You know, in an airport, you can't hear anything anyway. There's just like super loud announcements, and you're like, what was that? Did they just say my plane blew up? I can't tell. Are we supposed to go now or later? What are we doing? Because you just heard, yeah, flight 16 is boarding now, about to depart. What? Yeah. So this person is actually on the microphone. I looked. I can't even understand it. So I looked over, and this lady, she's just leaning over the microphone with dead eyes, just going, nah, 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 nah. She literally was saying, nah, 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 nah. I'm expected to make an announcement right now about your airplane, but I can't understand it, so I'm just going to wait some time. Look, what? So I was so annoyed. And then I know it's discouraging because nobody's listening, can't understand anyway, and there's people, like, I'm thinking, this airport's full of people who get tons of different languages anyway. And they're like, what? So then, what about the seatbelt thing, you know, and the safety warning? Does anyone even pay attention to that anymore? I don't. Do you? You're great. I honor you. You are amazing, good people. I don't. In fact, last time I was on the airline, I thought, I don't pay any attention to this. I'm reading my book. because I'm already over this. And if the plane goes down, I don't care about a flotation device. I know what happens when planes go down. All right? Come on. How many stories are there about survivors getting off planes that went down in water? That's why they made a movie about it, because it happened once. And now forever we have to know where our flotation device is. It says a little light. You just press and people will find you in the enormous sea. It's not happening. There's a whistle to attract attention. Like those big planes, you know how big they are? We went on a plane, there's like 1 million people on it. There's going to be like 900,000 people in the water blowing whistles. We're all going to go. No one's coming. So these guys, no one's, sorry. That's a bit, but it reminds me of some of the habits of prayer. And I don't mean to insult any cultures any more than Jesus intended to. But Jesus said that the Gentiles do. So he's like, now these are prayer wheels, right? Meaning that the prayer is written on them, and if you spin them, then that's like saying a prayer to the God Spirit being. But how sincere is somebody walking along and spinning a bunch of wheels on a wall? You know, in fact, some of these ones, these prayer wheels, are actually hooked up to things like streams. So they're stream-powered, river-powered. So you don't even have to spin them. They just spin themselves. Prayer, 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 prayer. And Jesus is like, you can spin your wheels, but I ain't listening. That's not prayer. You can sit there on your knees with your little, in your position, with your head, brow correctly down, fervent. You're spinning. But all the many words don't make it real to us, to me and the Father. So he says, and then there's corrupted motivations. He says, when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and on the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they've received their reward. This idea that other people might see me be good is so ruining of my own behavior. Here's the question I'd like to ask. How affected by others are we? How affected by others are you and I right now? Let me ask the question in another way. Does anyone dream of being a hypocrite? Like, anyone here perfect? No? Oh, Michael. I want to expose the sin of lying. Right now. I'm going to pray for you, but not sincerely. Just spin a wheel. Like, nobody's perfect. We all walk in, hello, praise Jesus, I'm amazing, God's awesome, let me shake your hand. We all kind of hypocrisy ourselves through lives because we don't want people knowing our business, right? You wore clothes because you don't want people to see the real you. I don't want to see the real you, all right? Just clothe it up. We walk and talk in ways where we are actually very much profoundly affected by other people all the time, but absolutely nobody ever dreamed of being a hypocrite, like a child growing up. Oh, I hope one day to be false, completely false, with an awesome Instagram account and Facebook, and amazing images of me that are nothing to do with me at all. Nobody wants to be hypocritical. Nobody wants to be phony. But yet the real thing is that people who didn't ever want to be phony can still turn out phony. The presence of people changes us again and again in the life of Jesus. These are the Pharisees. They were seeking to arrest Jesus, but they feared the people because they perceived that Jesus had just spoken a parable against them. And so they left and went away. The Pharisees, in their desire to end Jesus' exposure of them, wanted to kill him, but they wouldn't because they feared the people. But strangely, they also loved the people. It says that in Matthew 23, they do all their deeds to be seen by others, for they make their phylacteries. In case you don't know what that means, you're new to Jewish traditions. A phylactery is a small box, and in that box, prayers or scriptures may be placed. And the box is closed, and then the box is tied to your right hand or it would be tied to your forehead. You don't see this very often anymore, but it's in Jesus' day, it was common practice. So tie a box, and they would tie the straps. Like, did you notice how big my box is? Did you see how intricate? Do you think that Jesus would be, well, they don't care about Jesus. Do you think that Yahweh is going to be impressed by the size of this box? Did you see it's like this? And then they just got like tassels. You could just tie it on with a simple string, but no, long things that go all the way up the arm and stream off like you're some sort of, 8-year-old kid with your new bike. Put the tassels on the handlebars. Did you ever do that? Young people, bicycles are things that you might see on YouTube occasionally, where a person would go out of doors breathing something called air. Never. So, got to keep people up. I'll explain record players next week. Now, so they would essentially dress up their awesome religiousness, their righteousness. And so they would make their phylacteries broad and their fringes long, that's the tassels. And they loved the place of honor at feasts and the best seats in the synagogues and greeting in the marketplaces and being called rabbi than others. And I can guarantee you not one of those people when they were children wanted to be that when they grew up. They were changed along the way by the impressions of others, because the impressions of others change how we behave. And if you think that you're immune to that, then Jesus says you're kidding yourself. We're always being affected by how other people perceive us. In fact, they might not even be with us, and we still practice the things that we think would impress others when we're alone. We still pretend. Because we are so much want to get other people's approval, we hear about what it's like to become famous or to have more, or to be respected, and we do everything possible to maintain that sense even when we're alone. And so Jesus says, you can't be like that. Here's a question I would like to ask, and this is not my question, but it's been posed by others. If there was an amazing feat that you could do, like climbing the highest mountain, but no one would ever know you did it, would you do it? If there's an amazing thing to do, like do something, like go to space before anyone ever went to space and go to the moon, but no one would ever know that you did it, would you do it? It's a question. Facebook says no. Because you can't put that out there to your friends. Like, you can't have sandwiches without telling people on Facebook. I just had a sandwich. I just colored my hair. Wow. With a sandwich? I don't get it. Like, the weird thing about us, and I've thought about this, if there was something super awesome to do, it took a lot of trouble and effort, right? But I could never tell anyone, would I do it? I'd probably go, no. I'd probably stay home. What about this one? If there was a selfless act to do, like become poor and homeless to provide for others, but no one would ever know you did it, would you do it? Even swap it out. If there was a selfless act to do, like die for somebody, but no one would ever know you did it, would you do it? Like, honestly, we like to think we would, but we probably not. Jesus says, thus when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you. I don't do that often. As the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. Truly I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you give to the needy, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. That's a really hard thing to do. So that your giving may be done in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And I chose to underline that phrase, don't let your left hand know what your right is doing, because of its incredible difficulty. Your left hand doesn't know what your right hand is doing? Hey, right hand, what are you doing? Well, I don't know, giving money to the poor. Really? Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting the puppets backwards. Yeah, I think we're going to give some money to the poor. Well, we didn't talk about that. What are we going to do on Tuesday? We want sandwiches. I got to color my hair. All right, I won't do it. Hey, what did you just do? Like, what kind of an awareness of yourself makes you separate out your acts for others that are so much towards God that you yourself aren't even touched by the impression of it? I've got to tell you something, only because of its great dichotomy that I experienced this morning. There was a guest in our church earlier today that left a gift in the men's room. I got to say it politely. And I thought, I'll clean that up. I'll figure that out. Went around trying to find the stuff to do that. Couldn't figure it out a different way. Clean it all up. And I'm thinking, should be good for people to know this. Pastor, cleaning up toilets. Do you think I'm awesome now? But the weird thing is, this is what I was trying to reflect on. The weird thing is, the whole time I was doing it, I was thinking, what would other people think? That's what I was thinking. What would other people think? If people saw me now, they surprised me, came in, what are you doing? Nothing. Coloring my hair. I don't. Sorry. Sorry. It was there. I couldn't leave it. Sorry. Whew. Look, I kept thinking about what other people would think. But I was trying to do it just for God. And the whole time I'm thinking, what would other people think? I don't want to sound arrogant, or I'm not trying to prove anything to anyone that I think, but I'm trying to say that I know what it's like. And Jesus said you can ruin everything if you just make it about you. So being seen has a way of changing us, of corrupting us, of altering our genuineness. It spoils somehow our reward. The thing is that we need to be praying in a way that we are being seen by God. And we know that we are being seen by God. And that our seenness is about what God is seeing and not about what we're being seen as. Did I sound true when I was saying that? Did I sound holy? Did I sound smart when I prayed that prayer? Did I sound like I really cared when I prayed for the poor? Did I sound, we make it so much about the way that it would come across that we've forgotten that only God sees the heart. And He cares about what's on the heart, not what's on the surface. But somehow we've forgotten in our prayers to actually make them genuine. Jesus says the worst thing that can happen is you do all of these good things, but you spoil the entire thing by not making it real, not making it genuine. He says the solution then is when you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Interestingly, in many of the versions, they don't have the word openly, but it's there in the original text. That what God does, seeing you and your genuineness in prayer in secret, He produces in an open product later without you doing it. He rewards you with the result, the reward that His will decides. Better than your will, better than your idea, better than your prayer. God, your will be done. Produces a better solution than your smart, God, let me tell you what's wrong with that person. This is how you ought to fix it. See, we need to find somehow the ability to be real. I love this verse, Luke 5:16. Jesus often withdrew to lonely places and prayed. That Jesus also left the crowds because of the way that crowds affected Him. And so we say, well, it's just so easy. And my question today is it? Oh, I just need to get away, quietly pray on my own. And by the way, Jesus is not teaching you should only ever pray in private. That's not what He's saying. He's talking about being that real and genuine connection will be greatly enhanced if you just go pray quietly. If you just go out of the sight of others, you will do much better in your honest communication with me. So go pray privately. Find the closet and get in the closet and pray there. Find that remote place and pray there, because that will enhance the truthfulness of what's happening between you and God. And if you think, oh, that's just so easy, it's as easy in finding a quiet place. Let me just say, people go to a lot of trouble to never be alone. People go to a lot of trouble to not be alone. And even when we're alone, we can still act like we're not. So I've been thinking about this. I think, looking back at my life, that my best prayers, my most rewarded prayers, have been my most open, least properly said, oftentimes mopping up tears and snot, never really knowing how I ought to pray it, but praying it from my depths of my being, but honest. And it's not long. Somebody once said, God does not time prayers, he weighs them. Like, could I just ask that if you pray first, you remember that bracelet, and you think, yeah, I should pray about this day of work. I should pray about my family. I should pray about my health need. I should pray about that. That if you could take that prayer thought and turn it into an honest thing, not for someone else's benefit, but just between you and God. Say, God, I know I'm supposed to really pray about this, but honestly, right now, I don't care very much, and I just want them to be hurt. I'm not okay. I'm still angry, and I don't want to forgive. I'm facing this temptation, and I know I'm supposed to pray, God, deliver me from all temptation. But I can tell you right now, by the time I get up off my knees, I'm going to be looking for a way to satisfy that temptation. If that's the truth, do I mind if I just suggest to you, pray that? God, there's something wrong with my heart. Even though I know I'm not supposed to like wrong, I still like wrong. God, there's something wrong with my heart. Even though I know I'm supposed to forgive, I'm having a terrible time forgiving. Because if you pray that, you got a chance that God can change your heart. Then you make a real prayer. Maybe you're praying, God, I know you heal, but right now I don't believe you're going to heal me. And you say, God, please help me believe. An honest prayer might be a better prayer than the right prayer. So let's pray. Father, we thank you for Jesus, who kind of sweeps away the falsehood and lets us see ourselves. And we pray that you would help us right now in that awareness so that we are genuine with you right now. Please, everyone, just try in this moment to just be real with God. Some of you right now, you don't even know him. And the best thing for you to do is to say, Jesus, I don't know you, and I want to. I got all kinds of doubts, questions, confusion, but in my heart, I don't think we're together yet. So I pray that you would help me know who you are. Lead me to the truth. I'm not smart enough to know everything, so I pray that you would be a revealer of truth to me. Maybe your prayer right now is, okay, God, it's time to stop playing games. Father, I pray that you would forgive me of my sins and give me the gift of your Son, Jesus. I am ready right now to hand my life over to you, and I pray that you would take it. I don't want to be fake. I don't want to be a hypocrite. I want it to be a real thing, you and me. So I pray, Jesus, you'll come into my heart and change me. And others of us, we know the content of the prayers. We know how to pray right. But so often we're not praying honestly. Are you actually hurting? Are you actually struggling with doubt? Are you actually confused? Are you still not okay with God doing it His way? Well, why don't you be honest about that, but humble in that. Say, God, I'm still working this out. I want to pray, lead me away from temptation, but Lord, you know my heart. So I pray you change me so that I don't long for that. Rescue me from feelings and passions that go beyond me. God, you know I'm supposed to forgive others, but I'm still too hurt, and it's still too raw, and I don't know how. And I pray that you would give me a forgiving heart, and you would give me the forgiveness of Jesus. Pray, Father, that you would help me as I have needs in my body. Many of them I'm still doubtful and insecure about you providing. I know I'm supposed to trust you in everything, but still I run around anxiously. So I pray, Father, that you give me peace. Help me to learn what it is to trust you.